Welcome to The Greater Wealth. The man over here, the man who has got all the knowledge and the information we need, no pressure at all, mate. It is Derek Whittaker. I've got you here because we need to make a bit of sense of the mess that's going on. The world is changing right now. I think it's there in the old title. The economic system is changing. Here's how. Good to see you, mate.
It's great to be here. I've got 11 reasons why it's changing, how it's changing, and the 11th is probably the most surprising of all.
All right, will there be a test afterwards, okay? Seriously, do I need a tutor? Okay.
Pens and paper out, mate.
Why not?
Let's see how
Why
we
not?
go here, because there'll be a test afterwards. Look, it's been fascinating to watch this over the decades, and I'm going to put this in broad strokes to start with.
Okay.
The attack on the American wealth has been huge. And I think you can trace it even back to, places where the Federal Reserve came into the United States and did not want, the money changers wanted to actually control the US economy and where it went. Fascinating piece of history. Lincoln changed the currency to green bills. And, you hear the saying of, having those old greens. He had to fund the Civil War and didn't know how to do that. And of course, he then decided, well, we'll do back-issued greenbacks that will pay the soldiers in. And he was worried that would it be accepted? And he was advised, look, if it's good to pay off taxes and debts, they'll adopt it. And they sure did. And so this battle's been going on for a long time.
It's not a new thing, absolutely. And the control of the US dollar, the petrodollar, the exchange of, dealing with other countries. This is such a in-depth thing. This is not a new story. But it has evolved.
You've highlighted it beautifully. The petrodollar thing, where it wasn't re-signed last June 2024, I should say. Time flies.
It does.
We were only talking about it yesterday. It was like, wow, it happened. That was massive. The BRICS nations were looking at setting up their own economy, their own bank, their own currency, perhaps. And it was really devaluing the United States dollar. And what's been really interesting to see, how has this all unfolded? Even the debt clock, which I've got in front of me, I mean, it's up to what, $39 trillion in debt.
Listen, Derek, and this is Derek from Blue Sky Factory. This is why you're here, mate, because while other people are watching Netflix, you're watching that. But I mean, that's an important thing, that you've got your finger on the pulse. You're really looking at these sorts of things. The world is changing. The economic system is changing. And when you see this debt and you see how it reflects on the US dollar, you see how it reflects everything. We see it, obviously, every time we go to the petrol pump right now, we're feeling that. This is all very, very strongly related.
It's all connected. And that's the fun thing about this, is piecing the little pieces together and going, why is this happening to me? Why is that happening to me? I would even, the debt collect is an attack on the US mindset of wealth, because, hey, we're drowning in debt. How will we ever get out of this? What are we going to do for the future generations? If we have a look at this video here, from the World Economic Forum, and I don't know the speaker off the head, but it's really interesting to see where it was, was all going in relation to the control. Let's control every element of people's lives. Have a look at this.
Okay, nothing excites me more than listening to WEF.
At Capital, we tend to think only about financial capital, about cash, financial assets, but we know that's not the only value on which our economies depend. We know that every aspect of every part of the economy is fundamentally dependent on nature, as you highlighted. The air that we breathe, the water we drink, the soil, the oceans that we need for the food that we need to consume, the minerals that we need as inputs to technology and to infrastructure. And without these forms of value, these forms of natural capital, we won't have economies. They are the fundamental building blocks of our economies. But the ways, as you said, the ways in which we have grown our economies, our models of economic development, have been incredibly successful for global prosperity. But the unintended consequences of current models of growth are simply not sustainable on a finite planet. The amount of resource that we are drawing into our economies, Earth's resources, and the amount of pollution and waste that we're pumping out, whether that's through greenhouse gas emissions, whether that's sewage into our water, whether it's plastics into the ocean, is beyond the Earth's carrying capacity. And we know that that's leading, as you said, to very significant direct impacts for society, but very significant financial costs for the economy. You can look at that as you have and calculate that at a macro level. But the way that that's showing up as we're breaching these boundaries and breaching these limits and undermining nature is showing up in very practical ways that are showing up for financial risk for institutions. Lack of water is leading to disruption of operations, of supply chains where water is needed as an essential input for manufacturing or power production. The degradation of soil is leading to reduced agricultural yields. The decline of pollinator species is also having an impact on agriculture. So that's leading to direct financial risks for organisations, for businesses, and ultimately for investors. And as you said, ultimately the reason for this is at the moment the way that decisions are made on an everyday level within businesses and financial institutions is because we're looking only at financial data, financial metrics that are not factoring in nature. Nature is treated within the economy.
Yeah, I'll remove that.
If we hear a lot of the words you're saying, lack of.
Oh, there's lots of lack.
We don't have a lack of water.
No, we don't.
There's plenty of water.
That's right. But hang on, how do we monetize that?
Exactly. And that's the big issue.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we didn't pay for water, right?
Okay.
I don't remember if you remember that, Aaron.
I don't know. I was drinking from the hose quite happily back then. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they didn't charge you for consumption.
Wow. Okay,
maybe for infrastructure, but your water bill, you didn't. Yeah, it was free.
There you go.
Free to water the lawn and all that sort of stuff. So you're hearing lack. And so they want to monetize all the natural resources that there are, including public parks, national parks, all this sort of stuff.
Unbelievable,
right?
Isn't it?
And they want to put that, tokenize it on the blockchain and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So this is where the whole thing has started, the whole climate agenda. Do we have to look at the planet? Yes, we all know that. That's a given. Yeah. Okay, fine. Right? But it's become such a political core card to play to control people and their rights and their freedoms that it wants to assume that those natural resources shouldn't be freely given to us and that we can't use them for
free.
Agreed.
People often say the climate cult, right? Okay, it's very much a cult that people kind of join. But the problem is, sure, there's that element to it, but the truth, when you go to the top, it's just a climate business. This is about making money, control, obviously, of the population. But we are being financially turned into, well, not turned into, because we're already there. It's slavery. It's modern slavery.
I remember when you paid for an airline, ticket on an airline, you had to pay a carbon tax. It was tax money made out of thin air, literally.
Yeah, quite literally.
Now, they've scrapped that, thankfully, but it was ridiculous. And if you actually look at how much carbon in the world, how much is there? It's like 0.5% of the total air is carbon.
And we need it.
And you need it for
I think
plants.
It was year 2, okay, we did the old photosynthesis thing.
Yeah.
We know this is part of the process of the world. Stop making carbon, and you're made of it, by the way. Why stop making this the enemy?
So what's really interesting is that was going on. Then you had the attack on the US dollar through the BRICS nations, try to devalue it. And the petrodollar was, of course, not renewed, that agreement with Saudi Arabia, the United States, which then meant that other nations like China, Russia were doing deals in their own currencies in yen, which was in the past an act of war. If you did that, it didn't end well for Saddam Hussein.
No, not at all.
Mugabe. So not Mugabe.
No, wasn't it
Gaddafi.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, look, I was thinking Gaddafi. There you go.
Gaddafi.
You're right, absolutely. Yep.
So it didn't end well for those guys, right? And they started doing that, selling in their own currencies. So what's been happening is Trump gets in and says, we're going to become the crypto capital of the world. In 2025, the Genius Act was passed, allowing and recognizing stable coins as legitimate forms of currency. One, it allowed them to be recognized legally. Number 2, it said stable coins had to be backed by something. You couldn't just make electronic stuff up. Massive change because the petrodollar, not only the gold-backed standard of back in 1973 when Nixon depegged the US dollar from the gold standard was massive, so we could print money like it was going out tomorrow, which was the control of the globalists and the bankers, and this is what they wanted to do. Now it has to be backed by something, which inadvertently is funny because even treasury notes, like if it's US dollars, there's now a demand on treasury notes, and putting crypto companies probably the biggest holders of treasury notes and US currency by default, because the stable coins have to be backed by something, right?
Didn't think of that.
It's a clever little move and strategy to keep the US dollar in play. And number 3, it allowed other organizations, not banks, to issue currency. That was revolutionary for its time, and people haven't recognized how big a deal that is. Now the debate in 2026 turns to the clarity Security Act, and you've got the bankers and the crypto exchange companies fighting behind closed door, literally shouting at each other that we don't want to allow people to have rewards on their stable coins. In other words, you can't earn interest on them. You can't do that because that would depositors would leave.
Well, the traditional banking system is the fiat system. They feel they're losing control.
They do.
This is a desperate grab for control.
And their argument, the bankers' argument, is that they don't have to fit the same regulation. The exchanges, the current crypto exchanges, don't fit the same regulations we have to comply to. Okay. That's been their argument the whole time. So this has been going on. They've been trying to reach a compromise on this, but they're pushing for this. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve, number 5, has been getting a shake-up. You remember Lisa Cook on the board of the Federal Reserve came under investigation for basically naming and allegedly having more houses than her residency to get better loans for that. That was looking under scrutiny. And Jerome Powell has been roasted since day one, or even before Trump got in. And he has been called slow Jerome, not reducing interest rates, and absolutely got a visit from Trump with wearing the hard hat, looking at the buildings and the over expenditure of billions and billions of dollars to renovate the Federal Reserve buildings.
And honestly, when people saw that video, if that doesn't wake you up, come on, really?
I think that's why Trump did it, to get the media out there and look at where your tax dollars are going. These guys are at play. And his attempts to also bring an independent organization which operates outside of the US government framework under his power. There's been this power play going on there.
How long do you think that play has been happening?
Oh, for a while, but I think Trump's highlighted it big time. I think Trump's after it. He knows what's going on.
Well, I think many of the presidents before have just played ball. I really do. I think that they know where their butter is, their bread butter is buttered. They really do.
Well, again, what price, right? Every man's got a price, is the old saying, and I think you've highlighted that beautifully. When do these bureaucrats fall out under that price? That, hey, why is it that a bureaucrat can be on a wage of over $100,000 and then suddenly 5 years later their net worth is in the millions and millions and millions of dollars?
They just make very good investments, mate. You know that. There's no insider trading, none at all.
So that's come under scrutiny as well. Number 6, you've got a US president educating the masses and how they'd be better off without income tax.
How amazing is that?
If that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will.
I mean, imagine, okay, as an Australian, or actually wherever you are in the world, imagine no tax return, no dramas, saving money on your accountant, your hassle. You could keep your hair. There's lots of things,
Well, I think there's different forms of taxes, right? So the Australian government has set up very beautifully that businesses have to collect tax on their behalf.
Yes.
It's called a BAS statement, a GST. So when you pay GST as a consumer, you're actually paying a tax, and the business then has to report that tax, offset it with what they've had to pay, and pay the difference, right? And this is the thing that's been really highlighted. So this one tax of income tax and no tax on tips and all this that Trump's put in, which appeals to really the people who are working hard to make a buck, is beautiful. No tax on overtime. They want to get America productive and producing things. So this is all going on while this whole economic system is changing. This is unprecedented, where a bureaucrat, which Trump I would argue isn't, but is educating the masses how to be better off with income tax.
I think he'd win that argument. I don't think he's a bureaucrat at all. And I think the fact that he is trying to lift the everyday American, that's his responsibility. That's his job, right, to bring up the masses. And that certainly hasn't been the case with previous administrations, where they've been looking at the top end of town. That's the only people they look after. Look, look, from my point of view, I think, we need entrepreneurs. We need people to be successful. We need billionaires, okay? It's a positive thing.
Yes.
But you have to look at this holistically, I guess. You've got to look at the big picture that so many people need to go. If you want genuine prosperity, everybody needs to be lifted, right?
Absolutely. There's enough wealth for everyone.
I think so.
And I think if you start punishing those who are wealthy, that's the part of the problem, because you've got a taxation system that punishes you for making more.
It's worked well so far. It's going so well in England. How many millionaires and billionaires are leaving the UK? It is crazy.
How many have left Australia? I used to see it in the high-end law, accounting, financial planning firms that have left. They go, 1, too much tax, 2, too much red tape. I'm out of here. It's easier to make a buck overseas. That's and who suffers? The nation, because they take the jobs and the skill sets that could provide employment for Australian families.
Very true.
Ta-ta. Yeah. See you later.
Yeah, completely agree with you. All right. So we've got some other videos here, mate. Did you want to move to the second video, or?
In a minute, if we could. I just want to talk about tariffs for a second.
Oh, we love tariffs. Let's talk about tariffs.
Trump's introduction of tariffs was a brilliant move for the US people, I believe.
Right.
Now, everybody in the media mainstream media has absolutely hounded him on that. And it's like, well, hello, wake up. Does Australia charge tariffs? Of course it does. I mean, tell me who's stupider, right? Tell me who's the stupid one here.
Right.
You know cars, right?
I do.
When you buy a new car these days, there's a tariff attached to it.
Of course there is.
What's the intention of a tariff?
Well, in this case, in cars, it was to protect the local market, I believe.
That's right. Okay.
Now, what local market do we have these
How
days?
many manufacturers of new vehicles do we have in Australia?
Oh, it's a big fat zero, my friend.
Big fat zero. So who's stupid here? Us who keep paying.
And we're still paying the tariffs.
This tariff that doesn't protect an industry doesn't exist. Is that stupid, or is Trump silly by, introducing tariffs? I think the answer is pretty obvious.
Governments love putting tariffs and taxes on things, and funny enough, they don't seem to go away once their need is actually passed. Same thing goes with laws, right? We keep having all of these new laws and more control. No, they don't sort of replace one and take the other one away, do they?
No, but smart opposition would be pushing this point really big time, saying, hey, why are you doing this?
That's why we need very smart people in politics. We need a genuine opposition, which we don't have at the moment. But you're right. Trump is educating people. That's the thing. And you might not like the way he speaks. You might not like many things. You might not like his hair. I don't know. But look at the man's actions and think and understand this. This is what I try to explain to people without coming across as, a know-it-all, because I'm certainly not one. But, okay, so much of the world, they're playing checkers. Trump is playing chess. He's playing so many moves ahead. Think of the moves ahead. Think about why you're moving that pawn, because I'm telling you right now, in 5-8 moves, the game is going to change.
It's already changing, and this has been very well planned out.
Yeah.
Very strategic. And a lot of it, I think, is like theatre, watching theatre
really
of characters playing out. As Trump likes to say, central casting. Here's what I say to people. Look, they get rattled by Trump, and he calls it Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. Let me just say this. He's not a politician.
No.
He's not a diplomat.
No,
he is a businessman.
That's right.
All right. And that's what he's doing. He's being the art of the deal. He's doing deals with different nations to actually make his agenda of make America great again.
Throughout my entire life, people have said, if only we had a businessman in charge. Gee, what a difference it would make. Because these politicians, they're career politicians. They've never had a real job. We're run by a communist. Anthony Albanese has never had a real job. Never. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. And we entrust the future of ourselves, our lives right now, but most importantly, the future of our kids and our grandkids on people who don't know the game.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting to see how the globalists tried to create a conflict in the world and get their World War III with the conflict that was going on in Europe with Russia and Ukraine and billions of dollars going there from taxes and other administrations putting money towards that and the NATO agreement, etc. But look how it's played out. And this is, if you believe in divine intervention, I think it's played out this way because the Iranian conflict is now, the world is now buying oil from the US to keep their countries moving.
Yeah.
I mean, look how it's played. They took Venezuela.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest producing oil nation in the world. Now they've been going for Iran in terms of reducing nuclear bomb, and the byproduct is, have a look at this video right here. It's really short, but it's beautiful. It sums it up perfectly.
Let's jump into that one.
Baby drill program. America has plenty of gas. We have so much gas.
And that's it.
Oh,
America has got so much gas thanks to Drill Baby Drill, right?
Well, many would say that, Trump is full of gas, right? And he might be on occasion, but that's true. This is something I've learned from you, and I thank you very much for this. Okay, good old Blue Sky Factory, mate. This is something that I now use in my every single day life. Whenever I find adversity, I go, let's look for the opportunity and find the opportunity. And it is a mind shift that changes you. This is what's happening here. We are looking at this on a global scale. We're taking adversity. We're taking a problem. We've got a state which is a big, big drama that, and when the state that I'm obviously referring to is Iran. Okay, with some incredibly destructive politics, incredibly destructive social engineering that's going on. Guess what? We can solve that problem. And by the way, we'll grab some oil on the way and create some opportunity for my own country, in this case, America.
Well, this is an incredible thing. If you look at these stats, the US Gulf crude exports are now on track to average 4.9 million barrels a day in April based on current loadings. All right. So that's up 23% or 930,000 barrels per day since March, which is up 30%. So what that means at the current pace, May exports in 2026 will exceed 5 million barrels a day for the first time in history for the United States.
Little question for you though.
Yeah.
Okay. How much is a barrel of oil right now, US dollars?
It's gone about 110.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
US dollars.
US dollars, right? So why are we paying so much at the pump, though?
Well, I think it's a supply issue.
Well, that's right. Exactly.
Right. And so 20% of the oil goes through the Hormuz Strait. And so this is what Trump had to say about the Hormuz Strait and to the nations of the world who want to get their hands on black gold. Take a look at this.
World that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the Strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing, and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days.
And so this is a twofold kind of approach that's happened here.
Right.
You control black gold, oil, right?
Texas tea.
Sell, baby. You've got the thing that keeps the world going round. People want it. People want plenty of it. And when there's shortages and supply chains being interrupted, okay, desperately, we want to keep our economy moving. We'll buy it from you. Very clever play. Prior to that, what did he do? He visited all the Arabs in 2025 and did lots of deals and billions of dollars.
So much preparation.
Pouring into the United States to avoid the tariffs, right? In terms of AI and doing rare earth deal and all this sort of stuff. So the assets are in the rare earths and the oil and the commodities that they're doing. Very, very clever play here that they've done. I mean, you think about it. If you were, I mean, people get overwhelmed by debt, that they owe so much money. But if you were in that kind of debt of $39 trillion, you go, how are we going to get out of this? Look at how it's unfolding, guys, where they're making it so strategically available to people that they are positioning. People go, we have to do deals with the United States. We have to buy their oil. We have to keep selling to them. We've got to put infrastructure and building in the United States to avoid those tariffs. It's a very clever economic play.
It is. And what's the flow-on effect? Guess what? They build factories, for argument's sake, in the US. Employment for people, right? And a lot of people who are living right now in, working poverty sort of levels, which is it's a terrible thing. It's an absolutely terrible thing. But by bringing more industry and more we're right across the board, whether very basic level and also lifting your agriculture, all of that is just so good for your nation. And again, I keep saying this because I think it's important when people get so negative about what's going on over there. It is Donald Trump's responsibility to look after his people, and that's exactly what he is doing. And he's playing the long game, and he's building that country back up to the superpower that it once was, but hasn't been for a while.
And when you are in financial crisis, you do two things: cut your costs, and you also get more productive and bring more money in. We've looked and focused mostly on how to bring more money in. What have they done in terms of cutting costs? Well, they cleaned up and got Doge involved, and of course Elon Musk, which
USID, what a fantastic thing that was.
It was massive what they did, and uncovered all this fraud. And that we've seen the whole Somalian childcare facilities where people were laundering money and getting government grants to look after kids that had no kids there. Then you have a shakeup of NATO. This is what's been big in terms of the whole oil thing of highlighting. None of the NATO nations are there for us fighting this. We've asked them to come on board. They're all too late. And
the weakness that we have seen from world leaders is embarrassing.
America has put trillions and trillions of dollars over the years into NATO and has been asking, why are we doing this? Why do we keep pouring money in it? You guys need to fight your own wars, your own battles over here. Because everybody's been relied on this paper agreement that, hey, America will be there for us.
That's right. I mean, Australia is one of those countries. We're not in Europe, but I'm telling you right now, I mean, we've had so much of our military has been wrapped up in the fact that America will save us. You can't run like that. You really can't. And if you're going to have a deal like that, guess what? You have to have America's back. I'm talking like I'm just super pro-American. I'm quite frankly, I'm pro just anybody who's actually looking after the big picture.
People ask me, they say, people criticize the United States. And I'm going to say, look, they haven't been perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Right?
Shocking in some way.
But here's the thing. Who would you rather be in that gap? Would you want China to be in that gap?
Hell no.
Would you like Russia to be in that gap?
No.
Okay. So if the US doesn't step up to do that, who fills the vacuum? Because that's what's really going on here.
Bingo.
Right?
Yep.
No one's perfect. I'm certainly not.
Yep.
I'm not saying Trump's perfect. I'm not saying anyone is perfect or any nation or country. But there are good people within countries, right? Yeah. And we've got to remember that. Even when we were talking politics here, we've got to separate the people and the culture from the politics, which is hard to do sometimes.
It is very hard.
There's great Chinese people, there's great Russian people, there's great American people, there's great whoever, right? But that's the thing that we've got to do there. But the cleanup of the fraud has really ruffled feathers of the globalists. As
it should.
Yeah. And the NATO nations are being shaken up by this. And finally, here's the big one that's just starting to go, oh, here's another lead that we're going to uncover. Probably the biggest surprise that I got today was that this headline here, if you throw this up.
Let's bring this up.
Look at this. Even the Rothschilds are being affected by the Epstein file release. It's massive. Edmond de Rothschild Paris officers raided an Epstein-linked probe into diplomat. Now, this is from Reuters. This is a mainstream media information distributor, basically.
You may have a little Rothschild cash.
Mainstream media all have to get a lot of their news off Reuters. And, it's a really fascinating one where it says that this is in March of 2026. It summarised the article. It says French investigators searched the Paris office of Swiss bank Edmond de Rothschild as part of an inquiry into alleged corruption involving a French diplomat named in documents linked to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Prosecutors said on Tuesday the name of Fabrice Aydin, a middle-ranking French diplomat who was seconded to the United Nations from 2006 to 2013, later worked at the bank, appeared in more than 200 documents released by the US Justice Department. And these include emails he's alleged to have sent Epstein between 2010 and 2016 from his personal and United Nations accounts. So look, this has implications. Alleged these allegations are being investigated by the French, but it ropes into the United Nations potentially here, these Epstein files. This is massive, Aaron. It's all linked. It's
been so many years of people who have nefarious sort of agendas who have infiltrated, we're talking about the WHO, we're talking about the UN, we're talking about all NATO. These are the people with very, very dark agendas. And sadly, over time, I think that so many of those places have been so affected by it. We see it in Australia. We're like, okay, there's a ridiculous amount of Chinese influence in the Australian Parliament right now. That is a fact. Okay?
They own so much of our farming land too.
That's right. Exactly right.
Crazy.
So again, you can control the agenda. We shouldn't be allowing this to happen. So many other countries have special laws to protect. We don't tend to have that here in Australia.
So you might be thinking, well, how does this affect Australia? Well, on a number of levels. And I'm going to get to too, how do you set yourself? This is a great wealth transfer that's going on. And I've been asking my students, how do you set yourself up to take advantage of this great wealth transfer that's going on in this time in history?
Advantage.
The green energy policy is being questioned in Australia over its over-reliance on overseas production with the oil shortage that we've been hearing about, the oil crisis and all this sort of stuff. And it also highlights the fragile shipping routes. What's funny is a little videos come up over the weekend about Albanese highlighting those things years ago, saying we need to produce our own oil and we've got weaknesses in our chain supply.
Now,
supply chains.
I'm fairly confident to say, I believe that was 2 days before they achieved the LRS election.
Yeah, okay.
It was that fresh.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you see that going on. We also see a second thing we have in Australia is our old foreign agreements are being renegotiated, right? America, big ally from the World War II. The NATO agreements, where does Australia fit in all these sort of chapters? That's all being overhauled, all looking at. And Australia has greater opportunities here with the United States and the rare earth minerals agreement that it signed when Albanese did go over there.
Yep. Yeah.
I think what took the limelight was Rudd getting thrown under the bus there. And did you say bad things about me? That really took the highlight. But the deal was big. Huge. And Australia has a commitment of trillions of dollars with the US in superannuation being invested on US markets. Now, what does that do for Australia's local Australian stock exchange?
Tell me, Derek.
A lot of investors are concerned about that. A lot of fund managers because, that's less work for them and money for them to control. It's been committed to overseas markets. Right. But you can see how the investment structure is going on as Australia plays to to continue to be an ally to the United States.
And as we should be, honestly, it's an important alliance. And the fact that we can do it with the rare earths, the agreements, and there's so many other things, we've got to look at and think, as I say, big picture. You've got to think about the farmers. You've got to think about all of the importing and exporting, making deals that actually benefit all the countries involved.
I've seen a number. One of the things that I love to do is watch profits, accurate profits, talk about this stuff. And this might be a little bit out there for some people.
Oh, he's gone us.
What this, but it's been prophesied by Julie Green that the IRS is going, that the Federal Reserve is going, that Australia is going to get a new political party involved, or the current political party will be overthrown. And you look at these kind of things play out, and she's been incredibly accurate. Big fan, bit of a fan, because she's very accurate in what she does. And so you see, if that happens, if the Federal Reserve goes, that's massive in terms of economic terms. If the IRS goes, that's massive because nations will start rising up going, well, if they got rid of their taxation department, why can't we? Yeah. Right? And I'm talking nations as in the people, not in as in the diplomats and the politicians. And this is huge. If these things, if the biggest economy of the world, the giant, the Goliath comes down, which I believe it is, the strongholds that the globalists have had in that nation, the splash effect on the other nations is just massive.
Well, what's the story been forever? I mean, about, when America gets cold.
America sneezes, the world feels it.
There you go. Well, I had something else.
It's close. I know what you're saying.
I'll take yours on this one. But look, if we're talking about the biggest market in the world, the biggest economy in the world, and the US is, of course, when that changes in a seismic way, of course, there's going to be a massive tidal wave across the world.
So we are watching here not just economic information coming out and the cause and effect on different nations, which is fascinating in of itself. But guys, we are seeing an entire centuries of strongholds being overturned and turned upside down right now. This is one of the most exciting opportunities, but also times in history to be living and to be raising children and potentially making wealth for generations to come if you position yourself right.
I agree. Look, when I was born and was a child and growing up, I didn't think that I would possibly live through anything as, like you think about people who went through World War I, World War II, the Vietnam, all of these big events in the world. I remember the Cold War. I mean, I lived that kind of thing, but certainly very different. I didn't think in my lifetime the world would change so incredibly, just on a massive scale. It blows my mind. So, don't fear it. It's my thoughts here. My thought is, embrace it. Look at the opportunities. See how you can create some wealth out of this, because it's not wealth is different things to different people. But to me, wealth is actually freedom, because it gives you the ability to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do.
Absolutely. I love what you said before. It's opportunity. Where is the opportunity in these times? I'm not looking at doom and gloom. I know a lot of people think that and think the worst and take this face value. You've got to remember there's a lot of psyops going on in times of war, right? You don't show all your cards to your enemies and stuff like that. So you've got to filter through all of that information.
Look very carefully at the AI at the moment. Jeez, the AI is very, very good, very, very deceiving. Just watch the way people move in these things, because you're right. I mean, this is part of war, okay? And we are at war. Yeah. The Cold War is rather toasty at the moment. All right, mate. Any last thoughts as we close the show?
If you want to know more about how to set yourself up in terms of this wealth transfer, love to help you. Go to our website, blueskyfactory.com.au, and book in a 15-minute consult with me. Love to meet you.
Easy as that.
And help people out on this, because it doesn't take a lot to take advantage of stuff that's going on right now. It's huge.
And I personally endorse that like you cannot believe. It will change the way you look at the entire picture. And, you go forward with optimism and opportunity, which is, two of the best things you can have in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you for being part of the Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio.